All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you at the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. I am getting ready to absolutely crush a Reuben that Mike is making me in the back. You got to get here and try all their awesome food. There's a gang of guys here up at one of the top high tables eating some wings for lunch, and they smell delicious coming out. And you got to get here after work, try a beverage, grab their all-you-can-eat specials, boneless wings, steak, and spaghetti and meatballs. Unbelievable rates here at the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. You've got to get here and hang out and bet the ponies and all the rest. You can join me on November 3rd. That's a Saturday. We'll be here from noon until about the end of the Breeders' Cup or the end of the SU game if it's a night game. We'll be here all day and into the night for a Syracuse-Wake Forest watch party, a college football watch party, and a Breeders' Cup watch party. All-you-can-eat cheese pizza, $2 can specials, beer swag, giveaways, you name it, here at the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. That will be taking place on November 3rd. All right, I am here to give you 9 minutes with me on IGTV, YouTube, and Facebook on the NHL Power Rankings. How these teams are going into the season. We're basically right here at the start of the NHL season. The top 5 teams, maybe a couple teams outside that, and where things are kind of shaping up. I think the number one team, you have to obviously go with the champ. Now, do I think that the Capitals are going to repeat in 2018-19? I don't, but they are the champions in hockey. They're the team that's coming back. They're the ones that they're on the top of the mountain. They've got one of the best players in the league in Alex Ovechkin. You wonder how much the booze will get to them in the beginning of the season. Remember, these guys partied legitimately for 2 months after they won the Stanley Cup, deservedly so, but that can really put a huge strain on you in the game of hockey, especially with all the conditioning and the training and all the rest. So we'll see if the Capitals can have more success, see if they can repeat. I don't think they will repeat, but I think it's only fitting that you put them at number 1 going into the year because they are the champs and they bring back the majority of that roster. When you look at Ovechkin, you look at Holtby, you look at Backstrom, you look at all these big time players with the Caps, I think they're the team going in. Obviously, that's to beat. I think the second team is a team that, as Spittin' Chicklets guys would say, it's becoming a wagon, right? And that is the Winnipeg Jets. When you take a look at this team, they've got Patrick Laine, they've got Mark Scheifele, they've got a host of frontline scoring. And the other thing that I love about Winnipeg, and I said this during the entire Stanley Cup playoffs last year, not only are they big, they are fast as hell. I don't know if we've ever seen in hockey history size and speed combo the way it is in today's day and age. Well, guess what? The prototypical team for that is the Winnipeg Jets. My third team in the power rankings going into 2018-19. I'm going to throw the Tampa Bay Lightning down there. I love their young players. I've seen a lot of them come up, play for the Syracuse Crunch. They've got a ton of guys who can make it happen. Kucherov, Palat, all those guys that you've seen in a Tampa Bay uniform. They have so many weapons, and they're so deep. You just wonder now, as we're getting towards the end of the Steve Yzerman front office era. Remember, he steps away as GM. I would assume that he'll probably go and try to do his thing in Detroit. We'll see how that happens. But when you take a look at this Tampa Bay team, this is a very, very deep team, a very dangerous team with a lot of weapons. They're postseason tested. Again, they've got to get back to the playoffs and then close the door because the window might not be as open for Tampa as it has been the last few years. They've made conference finals. They've made Stanley Cup finals. They just have not gotten over the hump and won that championship. The time is still now, and the window is open. My fourth team, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think there's any team going into the NHL season in 18-19 with more flat-out expectations than the Toronto Maple Leafs. When you look at Austin Matthews last year, he had a little bit of a slow time, but he's still a superstar player, still super young, and one of the great American players, and one of the great players overall in our game right now. And then here's the big one. They added John Tavares. And he is going to bring a whole other dimension in terms of speed, the power play, changing the game, making the other team adjust defensively. John Tavares was an enormous addition in the offseason. This team has an unbelievable amount of expectations, but rightly so. They have so much talent, and that power play is going to be absolutely lethal. So I've got Toronto in there at number 4. I think they're going to be very, very difficult to beat. Nashville is a team, to me, that if it were football, you'd say all 3 phases of the game. Defense, frontline scoring, and goaltending. This team has a Pekka Rinne, is awesome every single year. They've got major players, guys who have gone through the Stanley Cup playoffs year in and year out. Nashville, battle-tested, talented, great goaltending, solid line defense. Nashville's going to be a really good team as well. And then in terms of, that's the top 5, Caps, Jets, Lightning, Leafs, and then Nashville. The next 5 are probably Pittsburgh, Vegas, the Bruins, the Blues, and then the Sharks. I normally would put San Jose way up there, but they always choke in the playoffs. I mean, this is a team that's had a lot of superstar players. They've gone out in free agency and spent a shit ton of money. They've gone out and gotten a lot of people, but in the playoffs, something just doesn't work. And this past season, GM Doug Wilson goes out, pulls out all the stops, brings in more defensemen. Remember, they've got Brett Burns back there at defense. They bring in Carlson at defense as well, and they bring in Marc-Edouard Vlasic as well. Here's my Reuben right here. Thank you, Mike. Look at that thing right there at the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. I'm about to dive into this thing. But that back line, the blue line, is absolutely positively unbelievable. You've got a major trio there with Burns and Carlson and Marc-Edouard Vlasic. I think San Jose is going to be really good, but again, in the playoffs, they're like the Washington Nationals on skates. They just can't figure it out in the postseason. They end up there every year. They just cannot finish the deal. In terms of the Bruins, what else can you say about this team? They have the major players. They have the clutch players. They've got the goaltending. They hit you in the mouth. They're one of the best forechecking teams in the National Hockey League, and they've got a bunch of young stars as well. I actually picked them to win the Stanley Cup last year. I just thought that they were, the best team going into the Cup playoffs. Had a lot of momentum, and I think it's also important to note that David Pastrnak, much like a Jack Eichel and an Austin Matthews, he is a part of this new wave of NHL talent. So Boston will be there in the end. They'll make the playoffs and be a Cup contender. Pittsburgh's always there because you got Sidney Crosby, you have Evgeny Malkin, you have all those other really good players. You've got Getzel. You've got so many players for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's headed up by the two-headed monster of Malkin and Crosby. Every line that they throw out there can score a goal at any given time. And then I think you've got to pay attention again to the Vegas Golden Knights. This team, you kind of look at them and they lose James Neal. They lose a couple other people in the offseason, but they pick up Max Pacioretty and a couple of others, and this team is still a team to be reckoned with. They're the defending Western Conference champions. I know they lost in the Cup Finals to the Capitals, but they might have been the biggest surprise in modern NHL and sports history last year, making the Stanley Cup Finals and almost winning the Stanley Cup. I love Alex Tuch. He's from the Central New York area, and this Vegas team, they're fast, they're fun, they're big, and they've got really, again, all phases of the game. Like I mentioned with Nashville, same type deal with the Golden Knights. They share the puck. They've got depth. They have balance. They have a good defense. They have a good guy in the net in Marc-Andre Fleury. And now last year, going to the Cup Finals will only help them in 18-19. Caps, Jets, Lightning, Maple Leafs, Predators, Penguins, Vegas, Bruins, Blues, Sharks. Top 10 for my power rankings going in to the NHL season, and I think it's going to be an awesome year. Can't wait to get started. Can't wait to see what the Buffalo Sabres have to offer as well, even though what they've mostly offered the last several years has been shit and been tanking and not getting the break to get Connor McDavid. Neither here nor there. Hockey's back, and it's a great thing. 9 minutes with me, IGTV, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm Mike Lindsley. Get me on Twitter, at Mike L Sports. Again, I'm from the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. About to dive into one of the amazing menu items here at the Phoenix Sports Restaurant. Get here for lunch. Get here for dinner. Come see me on November 3rd. The Phoenix Sports Restaurant is a proud sponsor of the ML Sports Platter. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.